How's it going, guys? AnxiousCynic back again with another Mine-imator tutorial. So something I've been getting asked for a while, and I've been meaning to do this tutorial for a while, is how to make a full-fledged 3D character rig. So that's what we're going to cover today in this tutorial. It actually might span over a couple of parts because it does take some time to do this, and there are multiple ways of making a character rig. I'm just going to show you one of the ways that I've done it and some of the techniques and things that I've learned along the way. So here we are in Mine-imator, and as you can see, we have the default Steve, and you can't do anything with him. He's just a, blank canvas, you might say, and we want to be able to animate his face and whatnot, and that's probably what we're going to start with for today's tutorial, is making a face rig, and then we're going to move on to 3D hair, maybe some 3D clothes, and of course, the all-requested fingers. So to get started, what we're going to do is prepare our skin. So I'm in GIMP right now. If you don't know what that is, then feel free to Google it, or I may have a link in the description. But this is what we're going to use to edit our skin to get ready to rig our character. So as you can see here, we have the skin imported. I just brought it in and dragged it over into GIMP, and we can do that, and we're good to go. So I'm going to hold the Control key on my keyboard and scroll with my mouse, and that's going to bring the zoom up on our character. And if I click into the scene here, then I can hold the space key. You have to click for some reason with GIMP, so you just click somewhere and that lets it know that, hey, I want to work with this thing that I brought in. Anyway, so once I've done that, I can hold space and it'll drag the canvas around so I can work with it a little bit more easily. So we're just going to go ahead and zoom in again by holding Control, and then we're going to space so we can do this. And we're basically just going to prepare the head for the basic start of our rig. So first thing we want to do is actually remove the eyes and the mouth area. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit the R key on my keyboard to bring up the rectangular selection tool. Alternatively, you can go up here and click on it in the corner there. And all I'm going to do is click here and drag, and you'll see it's bringing out that little square, and that is the selection I want, so I'm going to keep it. And now I'm going to hold the Shift key on my keyboard, and you'll see that it brings up that little plus sign, and that means we can now click and drag and add to our selection. So we now have those two, and I want to go ahead and do it for the mouth as well, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit Shift and click and drag over the mouth here. So again, this is just the way I'm going to do it. A lot of people will actually select a whole square for the eyes. They want to get that kind of Blender Cinema 4D look. I'm just going to stick with the default Minecraft look for the sake of this example, but you can do it however you want and customize your character and rig however you like. So now with these selected, I'm going to go ahead and hit the Delete key on my keyboard. Boop. And then as you can see, we've gotten rid of those things, and the checkered background means that is a transparency in our image, and that is no longer in existence. So I'm going to come up here to select, and I'm going to go to none to get rid of that selection. And now we want to prepare the hair. So I'm planning on doing 3D hair, but sometimes it doesn't line up perfectly, so we may want to get rid of this hair so that we don't see it beneath the other hair if it doesn't line up properly. So what I'm going to do is come on over here to our pencil icon. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to come over here to the size, and I'm just going to click in here and drag. And as you can see, if we go left and right, it brings it up and down. I'm going to bring it all the way down to 1, and that gives us a 1 pixel selection. And now what I'm going to do is actually click in here. So as you'll see, it creates that little thing, but we don't want that. But again, we have to click into the layer for whatever reason so the GIMP knows that, hey, we're working with this layer again. So when I do that, now when I hold the Control key, we get the little ink dropper icon thing, and I can click here and that'll select that color. So now when we do this, it will have just that color. So let me undo that real quick. And I want to get kind of a lighter color like this, and we're just going to go ahead and do the outline of the hair here. And basically, you can do this whatever you want. You can actually kind of mimic the pixelated nature of the rest of the skin if you want to. The reason I'm doing this is because I want it to basically have a darker look of skin so that we can kind of maybe mimic the idea of there being like a shadow cast by the hair. This may not be the absolute best color to use, but that's just the idea I'm going to go with this. We can always come back and re-edit our skin if it doesn't look right later on. Alternatively, if you wanted to, you could go through the painstaking process of making this all pixelated just like the rest of the skin or whatever, but just for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to go with that and give Steve a nice darkened look there and pretty basic and whatnot. And I'm pretty happy with that, so that's what we're going to do, and we're going to go ahead and save this by going up to File. We're going to go to Export As, and it's already a PNG because that's what the current image we're working with is. And I'm going to go ahead and back up to my Mine-imator folder. I'm going to go ahead and just put this in my Rigs folder, and I'm going to rename this to tutorial rig skin. You can name yours whatever you want. So I'm going to go ahead and hit export, and I'm just going to leave all this as is and hit export again. And now we're going to head back on into Mine-imator. All right, so here we are back in Mine-imator, and what I want to do is go ahead and import that skin that we use. So I'm going to go into my library over here. I'm going to go down here to skin, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on browse and navigate to where my skin is. All right, so we're in the folder where my skin is, and I'm going to click on tutorial rig skin, and I'm going to click open. And there you go. You get this nice disturbing looking Steve character here, and you can see through his head. This is a little thing that you might run into if you're actually using skeletons or something in your animation. There is a thing called back faces, and by default it's off, and it allows you to see through the character even though he does have the side and back of his head. If this is open, then you'll see right through it. So what we want to do is have him selected. As you can see, I clicked on him and he is selected, and we're going to go over here to the human properties. We're going to click on graphics, and we're going to show back faces just like that. And now you can see the interior of his head and stuff. The way we're going to be doing this, we don't really need to have that, but it just looks a little bit weird and distracting to me, so I usually turn it on just so I don't get confused. All right, so now we need to bring in some elements to replace the things that we took out. And the way I'm going to do that is to give the eyes a little bit of depth. So what I'm going to do is go up here to the crafting table. I'm going to bring in a white cube, and we're just going to create that and have it right there as is. So I'm going to click on this, and I want to just zero out the properties real quick so that we don't have it going all funky on us. And I'm actually going to go ahead and duplicate this because we're going to need two different kinds of cubes. So if we look over here, I'm going to enable rendering, and you'll see here that we just have a basic cube. But if we select this is one we have in our scene, by the way. Notice the use count is 1. So I'm going to go over here to invert, and when I click on that, you'll see that it makes the box kind of like inside out or whatever. And whichever way we look at it, we're going to be looking into the box, and that's how we want this cube to be. And we want this other cube that I duplicated to not have that enabled. So what we're going to do with this one is turn it into our eyeballs, or the eye whites of our eyes. So what I'm going to do is parent this one to the Steve character rig. So let's go ahead and actually bring that down and bring this one down and go to head. And now it is parented to his head. But of course, it's not exactly how we want it to be. So first of all, we want to keep the rotation point towards the outside to help us line things up. So what I'm going to do is rotate this 90 degrees. So we're going to go -90 on this, so that way this side is on the face. So I'll hopefully be able to show you the significance of that in a moment here. But first of all, we want to go ahead and scale this down just so it doesn't look too weird. So let's go ahead and do that. Probably be about, let's just go 0.01, or oops, 0.1. There we go. Let's go ahead and save our progress here. Hit the control save, and I accidentally clicked off of it because I'm dumb. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. And you can rename these. I'm just going to name this inverted body cube or something, not side cube. And we'll do the same thing for this one. We'll just call this one body cube. And that way we'll know that this is what is comprising our rig from our library. All right, so now we want to go ahead and line this up. And the way we want to do that is to bring it over, and we're just going to get an idea here. I think it's going to be about 4 points even, maybe. We'll see how that goes. It looks pretty well lined up. You may have to back it up just a tad, but we'll see how that goes. Let's go ahead and turn off rendering. And we want to bring this up. As you can see, it's in the dead center, so we're going to bring it up here. And we want the rotation point to be about dead center, and as you can see here, that's going to be about 3.5 on our Z, or at least the Z for me. Once again, just real quick, if I go to my settings tab and I go to, I think it's interface here, and I have Z is up checked because that kind of makes it more like Blender or whatever. So I just have it that way so that I kind of have a consistency between programs, but yours may not be, so it's up to you. If yours isn't checked, that probably means Y is up and down for you. So we're going to go ahead and move this over, and I think about -2 is going to be about dead center for us here, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to expand out our scaling parameters here, and I'm going to bring down the Y. It's okay if it overlaps just a tad, I guess, but we generally would want it to be about even. So let's just go, I don't know, we'll try about 0.0625, And then we want to go ahead and expand our X. And I don't know what this would be. Was it 0.125? No. 125? Yeah, I guess. That might be actually exact. We'll see how that goes. Looks like it's pretty good. Let's go ahead and turn on rendering and check that. Seems okay. As you can see, the eye socket is a little bit too deep there when the rendering is on. We don't want the eye to be going that far back, so we need to go ahead and bring the Z in, or at least it's Z for me. And we're gonna go, let's just say 0.02. That may not be too bad. Let's go ahead and save that and look. It looks okay, I guess. One thing you'll notice here is the way I'm doing this is pretty simple. So you're gonna have these outlines here that are going to be white. If you wanted to make this like a skin tone color, you could do like a matte texture for this cube, or go through the extra trouble of having another block around here and all this kind of stuff. I'm just going to go with the simple design here because we're going to be using eyelids and I just don't see it being that big of a deal. So yeah, there we go. We got the eye white, and what I want to do is actually rename the cube that we have here. So there's two different ways you can name things. You can name it in your library, and then you can also name the specific instance of it in your timeline. So what I'm going to do is name this one eye whites, and that way down here you'll see eye whites. And now I'm going to duplicate this. And if you recall, the -2 on the X is what lined up on this eye. So we're going to go ahead and put this one at +2. And there we go. Now we have two sets of eye whites. So now I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one more time. And I'm going to bring it down on the Z there. And we're just going to bring it over to the dead center. And we want to make the interior of our mouth with this one. So what I'm going to do is actually adjust our rotation point here. We want to, let me see, which one do we want to mess with? Is it going to be Y? I think Y -8. We don't necessarily have to do it this way, but this is the way I'm going to try it for now. And that way it'll help us to scale this up more easily, hopefully. So what I'm going to do now is bring up the, let's go ahead and turn off rendering because it's messing up my recording. We're going to bring up the X. And that's going to be probably about 525, or maybe just 5 even. And the Y needs to come up, and that's going to be 25, maybe not, 2, 3, 125. So generally when you're working with these numbers and you have the rotation point set up directly, it's usually a combination of the same type of parameters. So you'll notice that those numbers are very similar to what we use for the eyes. So that can be a big help. And we may have some texture like Z fighting over here or Z clipping or something, but it may not be too bad. We'll see how that goes for us. And yeah, let's go ahead and turn on rendering so we can see that's obviously not nearly deep enough for our mouth. So we're going to go ahead and expand that in. And something like that. Let's go 0.15. We'll just try that. And of course we want to rename this, so I'm just going to call it mouth, like so. And let's go ahead and save. And we want to go down here to color, and we're going to go to mix color, and we're just going to give it kind of a dark reddish look, and boom, there you go. Look at that, he's got a mouth. All right, so we got that, and now we want to bring in some eyeballs, some pupils or whatever. And as you'll see here, we have a 3 use count on our inverted cube and 0 on this one. So we're going to go ahead and hit this button here to put this on the timeline, and now we have a regular cube, and that's all good to go, man. All right, so first thing I want to do, I'm just going to go ahead and rename this. I'm going to call it pupil left, because we're going to start with the left eye, and the left will be the right on our view, but it's actually Steve's left, as you can imagine. And we're going to go ahead and parent this to the head as per usual. And we don't really need to do this, but I'm just going to go ahead and do the whole like rotation thing, because the pupils might be set up in a different way than the other ones as far as like how far outward you want them to be or whatever. But just to keep it simple, we're going to go like this, and we're going to bring this down, let's just say about 0.1. We'll just try that for now. I think that's too big. And we're going to come up, and I think that's going to be about 3.5 to make that about dead center there. And we're going to, of course, go to 2, and that's going to be dead center on the eye area. And I think we want this to come over. We had about 4 on the other one. We may not want it to be that far over, though, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and save. So now we want to go ahead and recolor this just so we can see a little bit better. So I'm going to give him kind of a brown color like Steve might normally have. So we're going to do that and bring up the mix percentage just like so. And we of course need to bring the scaling down there. I think this is going to be about 0.0625, and that's going to make it like an exact pixel, I think, in the eye here and stuff. So this is like dead even with the edge of the face, as you may recall. I don't think I want it to stick out that far, so I'm just going to bring it in a little ways here. Something like that. Maybe we'll go 3.85, something like that, maybe. And looks pretty good to me. And so now we want to go ahead and duplicate this again, and we're going to name this one pupil right. And then we're going to take it and say we want you to be at the -2 position. And there you go. So there's Steve, and he's got eyes, and you can animate them and cool stuff like that. So let's go ahead and save. Another thing you may notice is that the parts here are really separated. And if you were going to leave them like this, then you may want to move these things. So with this one highlighted, I'm just going to drag it and bring it up. And see this little line here between these two? I'm going to drop it there. And then now our pupils are right next to each other, so we can control them much more easily. Same thing for the eye whites here. I can select one and then click it and drag it and bring it down to the other one. So that's how you can do that. So now we may want to give Steve some eyelids. There's a couple of different ways that we can do this, and I'm going to do one method for the eyelids and one different method for the lips to show you guys two different ways and let you choose how you would like to do it for yourself. The way that I'm going to do it for the eyelids would actually work better if we had a smooth skin. So, you know, take it for what it is, but the one for the lips will be a little bit different. So let's just go ahead and get started with this one. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate the pupil left here, and I'm going to rename it. We're going to name it eyelid and left top, something like that. And basically what we want to do is bring that one out. So we want it to be about level, maybe a little bit more. We'll go, oops, not that far, 3.95. We'll give it a little bit of depth, maybe something like that. And let's go ahead and recolor this. We want it to be similar to the skin color. It probably won't be 100% exact, but we'll just go with something like that. Very close. And we want to go ahead and rescale it. And we probably want to move the rotation point here, just like we did for the lips and stiffs. Or we could actually, let's just go ahead and, no, we'll go ahead and do this way. I would say we could rotate it back, but we do want the rotation point to be on this edge. Or an edge, and this is already set up for us. So let's just go ahead and make this a +8. And since this is the top eyelid, we want the rotation point to be at the top. So yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and bring this up, and that's gonna put us at the number 4, something like that. Yep. And that puts us like exactly on it. You could bring it a bit higher maybe, just to go into the eye socket area there a little bit more. But we'll go with that, and bring the Z in. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll bring that in. It doesn't really matter that much, but we'll just try to make it somewhat logical. Let's just go like that. Go ahead and click away, and we'll go ahead and save. And there we go. So now we need to go ahead and bring this out. This is going to be somewhere in that 125 area, I believe. And we're going to go ahead and scale up the Y. And this is actually how you can animate it. You could just use these and like bring it up and down if you wanted to, or you can use the scale here and use that to open and close the eyelid. So we'll go with this for now and leave it there. Let's go ahead and just make that an even 5 and save. So there we go with that. And now we want to go ahead and duplicate that. And we're going to call this one left bottom. And the way we're going to do this one is we're going to bring it down, of course, but we need the rotation point to be on the bottom. This would be easier to just rotate it if I didn't have it rotated on the X already. As you may know, the Mine-imator doesn't really like to mess with the rotation points in certain ways, or at least the rotation. So what we're going to do here is just go ahead and reverse this one to -8, and that'll put it on the bottom, and all we have to do is just drag it down and position it, and we should be good to go. And this one, what did we bring this up to? Brought it up to 441. Let's just go ahead and do 0.5. And then on this one, maybe we'll be able to do something similar. We'll see, maybe 2.95. I don't know. We'll assume that's about right. We're going to go ahead and save. And then now we have two different eyelids, and we can animate both of them, etc. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that these numbers aren't zero. So if I go ahead and like, oh, I want to reset his eyelid position, if I hit the right click over this number, it's going to reset it to the original position. So you want to keep, if you're using scales like this, then you definitely want to keep that in mind so you don't accidentally lose your placement of things and whatnot. So as you can see here, since I left this white, giving this indentation for the eyelid doesn't look very good. So what we would want to do is just bring this out to 4 even on these. So that way, whoops, wrong, come on. There we go, 4. And that way you'll have this like eyelid that's dead in line. And of course you'll get the Z fighting there. So I highly recommend, recoloring this if you don't want that white to show, or setting this up. Since we're getting that Z fighting, we're actually going to have to go ahead and line that up perfectly. So we'll do the same thing with this one. I think that's going to be, what, 3? Something like that. There we go. So forget everything I said. No, anyway. So that's how we can correct that little problem. It really depends on how you're building your rig. We're just going to go for a quick and easy solution here and just do that and be done with it. All right, so what we're going to do now, since we have these two, is we're going to select both of them. Technically down here, you'll see that they're selected, and I'm going to hit duplicate, and that's going to duplicate both. And we just want to go ahead and give them the -2 on the X, boop, and then now we have those over there. And of course, we want to go ahead and rename these because they're on the right eye. So we're going to go ahead and remove that and click on right there, or type it. I don't know how you click on right, but you can. All right, so there we go. And now we have the left and right eyelids. And something I'm going to do to simplify this so that we don't get an overly complicated looking rig here. I'm going to select all of these with the shift button. I'm going to hold the shift key and then click on all of those. And as you can see, they're all highlighted now. And I'm going to hit the folder icon, and I'm going to name this folder Eyelids. And that way, if you want to animate the eyelids, you can just drop this down, and when you're not using them, you can bring it up, and your rig won't be overly complicated anymore. Alright, so now we want to go ahead and start on the mouth, and what I'm going to do is first bring in some teeth. And the way we're going to do this, I'm going to again use our pupil. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that and bring it down and stiff. So we can probably go ahead and change the rotation point on this one. We're going to go to, let's just say -8 to bring it on the bottom there. Let's go ahead and center that, and we're going to go ahead and not do that one. We're going to just bring that up, and let's see, we definitely want to scale the Z here. Oh wait, this is the position. Why am I messing with the position? All right, here we go. Now we're messing with the scale. I'm not dumb. All right, so let's go 0.04. I don't know, maybe that's too much. 3.5. We'll try it. It's all preference how big you want his teeth to be. Now, technically, you could use individual blocks and make it so that they look like individual teeth. But for this, I'm just going to make like a little, set of teeth or whatever with single like layer of blocks. All right, so what we want to do is just go ahead and scale this out. We may not want it to be all the way across. We'll go something like that maybe. Something like that. Let's just go an even 2.35. I don't know. And we also want, of course, give Steve some whiteness to his teeth. Maybe we'll just go straight white. Maybe he takes care of them really well. Let's go ahead and turn this off real quick so we can work a little bit easier. And there we go. And now we want to duplicate this. Of course, let's go ahead and rename it. We're going to name it teeth. And we're going to duplicate it. And we're going to parent one to the other. So that now we got this drop down, and I'm going to go to scale and tick that off because we already have the teeth scaled as we would want them to be and whatnot. And let's go ahead and turn off the rotation on this one because we do have that rotation from the pupil. I could have changed that, but I don't think this should give us too much trouble, hopefully. And yeah, let's go ahead and get rid of all the parameters there so it's evenly in line. And we're just going to rotate this to 90 degrees. And we're going to just scale it on the X and bring it over and line it up just a little bit. Right there, something like that. Doesn't have to be 100% perfect. You can get it as lined up as you want it to be. I'm just going to go with that 6.885 number there. And there we go. So we got those. And I'm just going to duplicate this, and as you can see, it remains parented. And I'm just going to take the negative off of this, and this is going to pop over there to the other side. And there, you got it. Or wait, that one didn't line up just right. Okay, we'll just go ahead and finagle it into place then. Jeez, usually that works. Oh my god, Mine-imator's making a fool of me again. Alright, so let's go ahead and just drag that over. It doesn't have to be 100%. You just want it to be very similar. Alright, so there's the bottom set of teeth. And of course, it's sticking out a bit too much. Let's grab the main one here, and we're just going to drag it back in. Like so. Maybe about 3.5. I don't know. We'll go with that. And there we go. Alright, so now we're going to take this one, and we're going to just minimize that down there. And we're going to duplicate. Alright, and with this duplicated, I'm going to go ahead and change this to +8. And I'm going to drag it up. And as you can see there, because I had that rotation on it and I had to undo it and all that stuff, it gave us a little bit of a problem here, but this should be a pretty easy fix. I'm just going to grab both of these by holding the shift key, and I'm just going to drag them down and get them somewhat in line. Let's just say, what is it, -16? That's going to give us the area that we need there. All right, let's do that and bring it up, and it can go up as high as you need it to be. And there's your teeth, man. And you can always scale these and whatnot and make them bigger or smaller or whatever you want to do. But he's got teeth now, and that's all we need to know. Now we want to do lips. So the lips are going to be a little bit more tricky because I want to show you the technique of how to get them if you want to keep a pixelated skin. So we're going to have to go back into GIMP and do a little bit of trickery. So I'll see you over there. Alright, so back in GIMP, I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-Z and undo all the changes that we made to our Steve. Once he has his eyes and his lips back. We don't really have to do all that, but I'm just going to do that to make this a little bit easier. And I'm going to turn off the selection. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and color in this mouth here, because this isn't the color that I want. So I'm going to hold Control and bring up the dropper. And I'm just going to pick some random colors here. Maybe a little bit of this one and that one. Let's go ahead and do that. And that. And bring that over. Alright, I'm not going to make this perfect, but this is what we're going to work with. And now I'm going to use the rectangular tool over there, and I'm going to grab this one and drag it over like so. That should be the exact width of our mouth. And I'm going to go over here to Image, and I'm going to crop to Selection. And as you can see, that gives us that. And I'm just going to save this by exporting as, and I'm going to name it Upper Lip. And I'm going to export as per usual. Alright, and now I'm going to undo that, undo this selection, and then I'm going to drag over the bottom lip area and do the same thing. We're going to go to Image, Crop to Selection, Export As, and we're going to change the name to Lower Lip. Just like so, and then we're going to export, and voila. Now I'm just going to undo so that I have my skin intact again, and then we're going to go back into Mine-imator. Alright, so back in Mine-imator, now we need to do a little bit of a custom items trick here. If you've seen my tutorials before, then you may know what that is. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to bring in a sword, and I'm going to create it, and there we go. That's going to be his lips. So down here, we're going to go over here to the library with the item selected. I'm going to call this lip or whatever, and I'm going to turn off sheet. And as you'll see, you get this nice item sheet look here. And I'm going to bring in that texture that we made a second ago. So as you can see here, we're in the folder. And I'm just going to find the upper lip. And I'm going to open. And there we have the giant lip of Steve there, unfortunately. So first thing I'm going to do is give this a custom rotation point and bring it down so that it lines up a little bit better. Try to get it somewhat exact. Sometimes this is a little bit cumbersome to deal with, but I think 12 might give us the result that we want. And before we go scaling it, I'm going to go ahead and just parent it to the head, just like so. And now we're going to bring it to the front. I think that's going to be +4 on our Y, something like that, or that's what it will be when we get the rotation point set up. All right, so we need to mess with our Y value here and bring this over. It looks like it may be just a solid 1. And there we go. That's going to give us the exact point to line up with the face, as you can see, with all the texture fighting going on. And we're going to just scale this. I'm going to just collapse all this and scale all the parameters at once. And I think this is gonna be, let's see, 2.5? Something like that. Is that gonna be exact? 0.25. And that looks pretty good to me. So now we're gonna duplicate this. What I'm gonna do is actually hit duplicate in the library here. And now we have the second item. And I'm just gonna call it lip 2 for whatever reason. And I'm gonna come down here and import the lower skin. We actually have this on the lower. I'm gonna have to reverse those. Never mind that. All right, so here's the lower. We're gonna open it and we're gonna bring this into our scene just like we did everything else. And I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm gonna parent it to the head and I'm gonna give it the custom rotation point. I think it was 12 on the Z, and we're gonna go 1 on the Y, just like the previous one. And of course, we're gonna take the Y over here and bring it up to 4 so that it lines up here. And we're gonna make this 0.25 to give it the same scaling. And that's actually gonna be our bottom lip, I think. So we're gonna go ahead and take this one and drag it up. And that's gonna be our top lip, because I got it confused in my mind. And we may want this. Let's see if we go -12. Is that gonna give us what we want here? No, it isn't. All right, so let's see what this does. If we go this way, okay, it's gonna be a positive number. So we're gonna go maybe 16. And that should hopefully be about right. Let's go ahead and drag it up. That looks pretty good to me. And we're gonna drag it to, I guess, the number 2 even here. And there you go. Now you got pixelated lips. So that's 2 different ways you can do it. You can use a solid color cube, or you can use like the custom item, like just save a part out and do that whole finagling and whatnot. It's a lot of trouble, but it gives you the results you may be after. And now, of course, we can do the same thing here. We can just move these up and down to animate the lips. But of course, I like the scaling option. So I'm just going to grab it and like scale it like so. And that's how you can animate the mouth. Once again, your numbers are not default 0. So if I right click on this, it's going to send it kind of wonky. So you're going to want to remember what these numbers are set to by default and whatnot. You'll notice here we got some of this Z clipping going on the bottom. We can easily fix that. Let's go ahead and make these invisible. All we have to do is just click on these and drag it up just a tad. It's going to be hidden by the lips for the most part anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Same for the mouth if we wanted to, because the lips are generally going to be here. We can actually bring the mouth up just a tad to keep that from doing so. And then when we bring in the lips here, you can barely tell anything's really happening except for the Z clipping that's happening with the lips themselves. Which you could probably find a way to cover up, but that's not really that big of an issue right now. I'm sure you can find a way to deal with that if you need to. So that's pretty much it. We got a couple more things we're going to do real quick, and let's go ahead and just make these invisible again. And what I'm going to do is go up here and go to the character importer, and we want to, or actually we're going to go to the body part importer here. We're going to stick with human, and we're going to keep it on body, and we're going to create that. And there we go. So now let's go ahead and come down here to our body of a human, and we're going to go ahead and change this and stuff. So let's go ahead and parent it to the head. I can't talk anymore. I'm done. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and rotate this by 90 degrees, and that looks pretty disturbing. Steve's a cannibal. All right, so we're going to go ahead and collapse that and scale it on all the parameters here. And we can bring this up. We can also do the custom rotation point if we wanted to bring this down. Or maybe not. We don't have a custom rotation point. Yeah, so we're just going to have to leave it like that unless we wanted to do the folder trick. But I'm not really worried about it, so let's just go ahead and bring it down. I'm just going to say about 0.2 maybe. Is that too small? We'll just go with that for now, and then we're going to do some individual parameters here. We're going to flatten it out just a bit, maybe about 0.1, something like that. It's not too bad. That might be a bit too skinny, but we'll go with that. We're going to give it a little bit more width with the Z or the X. I can't talk anymore. All right, let's go ahead and drag this forward a bit. We may want to reduce the Z so we can bring it in bit further from the mouth, and we're just gonna set it down in here because this is gonna be our tongue, and that looks pretty good. We're gonna go to the color and give it a mix of a kind of a darker red like we did the mouth, and we're gonna change that mix there. And as you can see, we got a tongue, and you can animate it by flopping it up and down. You can even bend it back and forth. Gives you a little bit of tongue action there. That if you wanted it. All right, so let's go ahead and put that back at 90. And there's your tongue. And of course, if you wanted to, you can animate this by sticking it up and extending it, you know, to have his tongue sticking out and whatnot. But the way this works in Mine-imator is a little bit kind of wonky. You'll see there it changes. And it looks kind of weird. But you can totally do it if you so choose to do so. And let's go ahead and undo that. There we go. Keep your tongue in your mouth, Steve. All right, so let's go ahead and put his lips back on. We're pretty much done with the mouth there. And for a final touch, we want to go ahead and add some eyebrows. So I'm going to go up here to the body part selection, and we're going to keep it on human, and we're going to go to arm. It doesn't really matter which one you use. You can use left arm or right arm. If you were going to do custom textures, you might want to pay more attention to that, but for this, we're just going to give it a solid color and whatnot. So with the arm in the seam, we're going to go ahead and parent it to the head, just like everything else that we've done. And we want to keep the bend on a certain angle, so I'm going to bend it so we can see what we're doing here. And that looks okay to me, and maybe we'll go ahead and do like so, and rotate it -90 on the Z, or at least the Z for me. And then we're going to rotate it like so, about 90 degrees on the X. We definitely want to scale this now, so I'm going to go ahead and collapse that and bring it in, and bring it into position here somewhere up in here. Now we want to line this up, so I'm just going to go ahead by default and make this 4, and that's going to bring it out about halfway on the arm due to the way the rotation point is. And I'm just going to slide this on over. Let's go to -2 and see what that looks like. That's kind of weird, but maybe control all -2.5. We'll go with something like that. All right, so that's a bit too big, so you know we're gonna have to make it a little bit smaller. Don't really know exactly what we want. Let's go 0.18 maybe. And so this doesn't continue looking so weird, I'm gonna go ahead and change the color to similar kind of brown, darkest brown or whatever that he might have for his hair. And boop, something like that. And that looks still a little bit too big to me. Does it look too big to you? Because it looks too big to me. Let's make it 17. I don't know. All right. So there you go. And then you can animate this as you see fit. You can bring it down or up or however you want. And we'll do like that. Of course, we need to name this. So I'm going to name this eyebrow right. And then we're going to duplicate it the way we normally do. And I'm going to change this to 90 degrees so it flips it. And the other one was -2.5, so we're just going to go +2.5. And boom. Whoops. Hit the wrong button there. All right. There you go. There's his face, man. He's got eyebrows, he got eyelids, he got pupils, he got eye whites, he got lips that you can animate and stuff. Just expand that scale selection there, or however you want to do it. He got teeth and a tongue and all kinds of things. So there's your face rig. Hope this was helpful to some of you guys. Of course, you can obviously rescale and resize any of these, and we may be getting into some more tips in the next part, but for now, we're going to leave it at that. So again, hope you guys enjoy this. Hope it was helpful in some way and gets you started on your own personal character rig building adventures and whatnot. And that tongue is sticking through there. We have to lift that up. No big deal. Anyway, that's going to be it for me, guys. Hope this tutorial was helpful or at least inspiring in some way. For those of you who want to participate in the weekly compilation, I highly recommend you wait until the compilation before you try to make anything, because this probably is not going to be the theme, and I just want to go ahead and give you a heads up for that. Anyone who submits before the theme is announced will probably not make something that's going to fit the theme. So just letting you know that if you're watching this when it comes out. Anyway, that's going to be it, guys, so thanks for joining me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to hit that like button, comment, and subscribe to become a citizen today. Share it with your friends and your family and your pets, and I will see you guys in the next video.